Hello everybody. The title of this video is It's All a Numbers Game. Now, what am I referring to? I have to have some context and set some parameters. But this numbers game is something that most people are familiar with. In today's world, rating someone's physical appearance numerically is a very common thing. Now, especially in the Western world, Europe and English-speaking countries, United States, the numerical rating system actually has some reality to it. Now, you don't have to believe me, of course. You can check it out for yourself if you want to do a little research. But believe me, if you've ever seen any artificial intelligence, AI images that have been created, where do you think the data for those images comes from? Well, it comes from a large amount of research. And I won't bother getting involved with what that research is all about, how they conducted it, although I have done the research on my own, and I will guarantee you that it is absolutely valid. It's all based on metrics, or the measurements of both face and body structure. I will tell you that one of the primary ingredients for attractiveness in both male and female, regardless of race, has to do with symmetry, especially in the face. If you're doing a portrait of someone's face, is the right and the left side of the face pretty nearly perfectly balanced. Anyway, the closer it is to being perfectly balanced, generally speaking, the more attractive the person is found to be. So if you're a man, some of the parameters I'm going to set up for on this thing is, with the numbers, is if you're a man, a Western man, we'll say between the age of 30 and 40. I'm not too sure about Europe because of the restrictions of everything that's going on there. Restrictions of freedom and your ability to express yourself and what you're able to do as far as your own career development and things like that go. But certainly in the United States, if you are objectively rated as an 8, a 9, or a 10, and like I said, if you're between 30 and 40, and you've got your life together, you're pursuing your financial goals, and perhaps if you're a little bit older, you're already well on the way to realizing them, and you're not a total klutz verbally, intellectually, you're able to carry on a decent conversation at different levels with different kinds of people, pretty much the world is your oyster. You can have your choice of women from anything from, I doubt that you want to dip totally in the bottom of the barrel, but certainly for anything above a 3 up to 7, possibly even an 8. And she can be yours for the night or the weekend, however long you choose to keep her around. But a lot of the men that fall in that category are really not in that age range. I don't think are seriously looking for a serious long-term partner, because most of them are building their lives. Now, when they hit the mid-40s, they may go back and start shopping for women in the 22 to 25-year-old bracket for potential, but I wouldn't bet on it. For the ladies that are in that 8, 9, and 10 category, and they're between 30 and 40, sad to say that basically your time is past, because for primary marriage age and sexual market value place and marriage marketplace value is between 18 and 22. Now, you can get a little grace period from 22 to 25. But once you hit 25, the wall is looming. And it gets higher and harder to cross every year after that. So that by the time you're 30, you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to hit the wall until I'm 30 or 35. No, dear. You hit it at 25. And your value in those different marketplaces is decreasing, even if you are an 8, 9, or 10 on the appearance scale. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the fence you jump on, really beautiful people, really women, really handsome men, really don't have to work too hard for things, especially women. You know, what's the Eagles song? Something about she knows how to open a door with just a smile. Well, I suspect that really beautiful women know how to open doors, all kinds of doors, with just a smile. Doors to opportunity and various other things like that. So often they have not had, this is my opinion, of course, they have not had any real big challenges in life. Whether or not that means they can ultimately be successful, I don't know. I'm not that kind of a research scientist person. But it seems like if you don't have to work for it, you don't appreciate it. And I know that's been true in my life, and I'm certainly not bragging. I was maybe a low 5 in my prime back in my mid-30s, we'll say. Now, I'm old and wrinkled, you know. I barely even bumped the scale at maybe a 3. So, you know, it's not my own failings as an attractive person that I'm concerned with. I'm trying to get some information out there to people. Now, at the other end of the scale, you got 1s and 2s. And 1s and 2s, take heart. That's all I can tell you. Because the very fact that you exist, not very attractive people, maybe not so intelligent, not real good at communication. But the fact that you actually exist means that 1s and 2s are still having sex and still making babies, because that's where the 1s and 2s in the world come from. I mean, that may seem a little harsh, but I don't see that it's untrue. The next group is the high 5s, 6s, and 7s. Now, this group, same thing for the men if they're between 30 and 40 and living in the Western world. They're almost there. Now, appearance-wise, I guess with some plastic surgery, they might be able to improve their appearance. But, you know, if you're 5'8", you're not going to make yourself 6 foot tall, the magic number, right? So, you might have everything on the ball. You might be a successful guy financially, but you just don't quite hit that appearance level of being an 8, 9, or 10. If you're a woman in that range, actually, if you're a decent, real woman, that's you could be in very high demand. Because you not only have the whole group, 5, 6s, and 7s, in your range to pick from, or they have you to pick from. A lot of the upper tier guys are not necessarily looking for 8s, 9s, or 10s. They're tending to look for 5, 6s, and 7s to form permanent long-term relationships with. But not when they're 40 years old, you know. A guy that is 8, 9, or 10 and is 45 is not looking for a 40-year-old woman. That's for sure. He's looking down in the 22 to 25 range. So, you know, women, your goose is kind of cooked if you're a bit older because you've waited too long and put yourself out of the marketplace, age-wise. And you can make all the legislation you want, and you can stomp up and down the sidewalks and the streets, wave your signs about women's liberation and equality and all that. But what you cannot do is you can't undo 200,000 years of cultural, societal, governmental, educational, and human evolution that pretty much has geared the human race into what it is today. Men and women. One man, one woman, get together, make a family, have children, all that normal stuff. So, prime childbearing age is 18 to 22. And if you're an 18-year-old woman and you're not prepared, the older women are real hot on being strong and independent. Well, if you're 18 years old and not capable of taking care of yourself, someone is somewhere along the line, your culture, your society, your government, your education system, certainly your parents, but ultimately yourself, have failed. Because at 18 years old, you should be quite capable of being self-sufficient. That means you know how to do all kinds of basic living skills. I mean, in the way back when, last century, when I was the first one in the military, when I was 18 years old, and I went to boot camp, I was absolutely astounded that there were young men, 18, 19, 20-year-old men, that didn't know how to do anything because their mommies took care of everything for them. Washed their clothes, made their bed, cleaned their rooms. These guys were hopeless. Now, realize this was 55 years ago, in the 1960s. You'd think they were a little bit better prepared. They weren't. My bunkmate was so shocked by having to live the life we lived in boot camp that he wanted to go AWOL, absent without official leave. He wanted to run away and hide somewhere. I think I talked him out of it. I mean, he never did actually leave. But how sad is it? And this guy was like 22 or something. How sad is it that a young man of that age, at that time in the United States, was so frightened by a little discipline and a little self-responsibility that he didn't think he could take it anymore. And he wasn't the only one. There were actually a couple of guys from boot camp that hightailed it out of there. Eventually they were caught and brought back, had to do punishment, and still had to complete boot camp, so it didn't make any difference. Anyway, if you're, like I said, if you're 18 years old, especially a woman, but a man too, a young man, if you're not capable of taking care of yourself, really, what good are you? What good are you to anyone else? You should be able to, do basic things. Cook a meal. Take care of yourself. What is it Jordan Peterson says? Clean your room. Make your bed. Simple things. Anyway, the last group in this little montage is 3/4s and lower end 5s. Well, they're not a lost cause either. A lot of realize that on a bell curve, if you rate between 4 and 6, that's standard bell curve would put that deviation at nearly 50% of the population. That's why 5s are considered average. Half the people are below average, half the people are above. So between 40 and 60 takes in a large portion of the population, regardless of where you live or who you are. So, maybe you're not quite as sharp, you're not quite as good looking, but that doesn't mean your life is hopeless. However, these days, with red pill, men going their own way, voluntary celibacy, men realizing that investing in anything at all, especially their time and money in Western women, is futile, it's not looking good out there, folks. I don't know what the statistics are. By 1930, 40% or something of all women will be unmarried and childless, and by the time they reach the age of 40. Well, that's great, if that's what you want to be, a strong, independent woman. If you've provided for yourself financially and you hit the age of 40, the likelihood of finding a relationship with anyone is rapidly or has already reached 0. And the chances that that's going to improve anytime soon are basically zero. Now, of course, you could try to get in touch with the reality, to set your expectations in a realistic way. I'm not sure that that would make any difference. However, even a guy that's a 3-4 or low 5 has a chance because he's a man. Men have a longer useful lifespan as far as relationships go and initiating relationships. But once again, MGTOW, red pill, and the fact that men are just realizing in the Western world anyway, especially the U.S., it's just not worth it. Anyway, that's my little dance on the soapbox and what I think about the number system, how people rate themselves or rate others. And, it's not a false. The Godfather, Kevin Samuels, used to get these women on there, and he would, some of them he would really lay into. But one of the first things he would always tell them is, you just come out of the shower, you wash all the goop off your hair, out of your hair, it's just hanging down straight and wet. You washed all the dirt off your face. You're standing there in front of a full-length mirror. What do you rate yourself as, honestly speaking, Are you fat, overweight, cottage cheese creeping up on your butt cheeks and your thighs? And, your facial structure's not that terrific? What are you really? You might like to think you're a 9, but what are you really? A 3, maybe a 4? There's one girl made a cute little video. I saw it somewhere, and she said they've come up with a new classifications for women. They call them 49ers. These are women who are 4s but think they're 9s, so they call them 49ers. It's one thing that I don't think most men are unrealistic about. Most men are pretty honest with themselves about their appearance. And they rarely, if ever, rate themselves. It's almost never really overrate themselves. Women, notorious for doing so. So, some points to ponder, some things to think about. Let me know what you think in the comments. And remember that whole idea of the objective judgment of appearance is real. I might do a video about that. It's quite an interesting topic based on facial recognition software. Anyway, that's it for now. Bye.